So I cast on for a new project when I left for this trip. Last weekend I spent a lot of time swatching different brioche designs and I couldn't make up my mind, and then I decided on the pattern that I really liked, and I hadn't finished the swatch when we left home, so I typed up the pattern as I thought I would want it, and then we were basically traveling Tuesday night. We got to the airport about 2 in the morning, so between 2 and 5:30 I was knitting swatches for this design. I had typed up the chart. It's quite a big chart, but I hadn't worked out all the maths and the exact details, so there's a lot of scribbling 3 in the morning while I was having breakfast. I cast on for the design. I ripped out my original swatch because I wanted to make sure I had all the yarn for this design. So it's kind of in 2 halves. This is the first half, and it's starting to show. I'm halfway through the pattern repeat, so I've done about 13 rows, and it's starting to show the pattern now. That's the second half. I originally cast on at the airport at about 3 in the morning on Wednesday, after working up my tension and scribbling some notes and things on the back of my pattern. And then when we got here on Wednesday evening, when I was sitting down to knit, I actually changed my mind, so I ripped it all out again and started again, which led to more scribbling and a very messy looking pattern, but I'm happier with this version of it, and yeah, it's looking good. Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Anniken and I live in the southwest of England, where I teach knitting workshops, which I also teach online, and I design knitting patterns, and I sell some beautiful yarn, which you can see behind the dress form. Thank you very much for joining me today. Today I'm going to talk about this new design, which is actually my first published brioche design. I've been exploring brioche for a while now, but I haven't published a pattern till now. I have several brioche patterns due out in magazines as well later this year and early next year. So it's something I've been working on for a while, but this is my first published brioche pattern. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and please leave me a comment to let me know if you like brioche. Have you tried brioche? Do you want to try brioche? I'm also teaching some brioche workshops this autumn, so if you're watching this in the autumn of 2022, I had to think for a minute there, but 2022. So if you're watching this when the video is first released in the autumn of 2022, I'm teaching some brioche workshops, but I will also be teaching more brioche workshops in the future. Do make sure you sign up to my newsletter. So if you're watching this later and you missed the brioche workshops I'm teaching at the moment, you can find out when I'm teaching it next time. So this autumn, autumn of 2022, I'm teaching brioche at the Knitting Hotel in Dawlish in Devon, which is probably they're like weekend retreats and they tend to be booked up a long time in advance, but I'm also teaching brioche there in 2023, and there may still be some spaces left for that, so do look out for the Knitting Hotel. I'll put all the links below this video. I'm also teaching it in Liskeard in Cornwall in the first, I think it's the first week in October, quite early in October, and there's just one date. It's a full day workshop. And then I'm teaching brioche basics and brioche improvers at Spinner Yarn in Bovey Tracy in Devon in November, I think. But I'll put all the links below this video so you can check it out. And as I said, if you've watched this at some point in the future, do sign up to my newsletter, because that's where I share all this kind of information to start with. So let's talk a little bit about this design. This is called Enchanted, and I will show you the full shape of it in a minute. The reason behind the name is that I worked on this when I was in Spain in June. It's now August. I do just want to say quickly, if I look a bit hot, it's because I am. This is in August. I'm filming this in August, and we are just on the tail end, hopefully, of a heat wave. It has been very, very hot. It's still quite hot today. It's supposed to be cooling down today, but it's still very hot. My office gets very, very hot in the afternoon, so I have the window open and the curtain closed because the sun is straight on in here at the moment. We did have some thunderstorms earlier, but I think it's stopped now. So if you hear any rumblings, it is the thunderstorm, but it's stopped now. It's still sunny, so we haven't had any rain, and it is very, very hot. So if I look a bit like I'm glowing, that's because it's very, very hot. Let's have a look at this design. As I said, it's my first brioche design that I've published. So I have been exploring brioche for a while. I tried brioche on and off for every so often for a few years, quite a few years ago, before it kind of became really popular. I bought a brioche book and I started exploring it. And then in early parts of 2020, I started seriously exploring brioche and doing a bit more, just knitting different stitch patterns and learning how it affects the stitch pattern and how to design with brioche and things like that. So this year I felt I had the confidence to actually start teaching brioche and to start publishing brioche patterns. So I actually mostly worked on this design when we were on holiday in Spain in June. Before we left for a holiday, I was so busy. There was so much going on with design deadlines and workshops and things like that. I didn't really have time to properly plan out a design, so I just charted out a few stitch patterns that I quite liked, and I think I started knitting a swatch, and then we left for the airport late evening. I arrived there in the middle of the night because it was airport chaos, so we decided to arrive very, very early. So I was sitting in one of the pubs at the airport about 2, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, knitting, finishing the swatch that I was knitting, and then doing all the measurements and calculating the mass for how many stitches I need to cast on and that kind of thing, and then cast on before we got on the flight. And I hadn't actually slept because we'd driven up late in the evening, so I hadn't had any sleep. So the fact that this actually worked out was a miracle. I did actually make a slight mistake in my calculations, and one of the first few days of the holiday I had to rip it out and start again, but that was fine. That's what happens when you try and work out pattern maths at 3 in the morning. But I spent most of the holiday working on this. I'm really excited about it. I was really enjoying working on it. I used 1 skein of Manos de Uruguay Fino in the colourway Admiral. Then I used 1 skein of Manos de Uruguay Fino in the colourway Rosewater, because I really liked how those two look together. You can use a variegated and a solid colour as well, rather than 2 sort of semi-solid colours. Just make sure that there is enough contrast. So for example, let's just pull out a couple of other colorways. Okay, so just randomly picking some stuff off my shelf. I really like these 2 colorways, but I wouldn't use those 2 colorways together in a brioche project because I don't think there is enough contrast to really see the brioche properly. But you could use either of them with that perhaps, or I also have a light grey which I can't see at the moment. So there are different options, but just be careful that the 2 colours you use aren't too close. Another colourway which is called Ivory Letter Opener, and it's kind of like an ivory off-white colour. You could use that with that one, for example, but the colours are very, very similar. One's just got a little bit more pink in it. So there wouldn't be much difference between the 2 sides. so you would be better off using two colors that have a bit more of a contrast in them. With brioche you have a two-sided fabric, so if I just lift this over, you can see on this side here, this section here, pink is the dominant color. If I turn that over, you can see on that side blue is the dominant color, and then in this half blue is the dominant color on that side, and if I turn that over, fold that over, pink is the dominant color. Let's take it off, it might be easier to show this holding it. So there, blue is the dominant color, and if I fold that over, you can see it's pink, that's the dominant color on the other side, and on this bottom half, pink is the dominant color on that side and blue on that side. So this is kind of the main side, what I would regard as the right side is this bit, and then if I turn it over, that's what the other side looks like, what I would regard as the wrong side. But really, as you can see, there is no right and wrong side, but this is kind of what I designed to be the right side, if you like. So this pattern consists of two stitch patterns that have been combined. So let me just fling it back over here again and see if it'll stay on this time. So you can see here it changes color in the middle of the row, and I did that deliberately. I flipped the color, and that does take a little bit more concentration, and it means that this is probably not suitable as a first brioche project. If you've done a brioche project before and you're happy with brioche terminology and the brioche decreases and increases, then it's not difficult. You just have to follow the pattern. I know that's the same with all knitting, you just have to follow the pattern, but it's not difficult. So it does give you a quite good effect when the colours are kind of flipped halfway through the row, but it does add a slight level of difficulty to the pattern. So it is quite a long pattern repeat, quite a few rows, but those rows are repeated over and over again. So I think that stops you from getting bored because there's a lot of variety, but also it means that you're not experiencing new stuff all the time. So it does get familiar as you work through the shawl, and towards the end I found that I was, probably for the second half of the shawl, I found that I was relying less on looking at my chart. Pattern has charts and written instructions. I think the main difficulty with brioche knitting is the fact that the abbreviations tend to be quite long. I don't really know why that is. I'm just using the standards that other people have set before me, so I didn't invent any of those abbreviations, but the abbreviations in brioche tend to be quite long. That makes it look quite daunting because you have all these letters, but really when you look down to actually how to work the stitch, it is fairly easy. So the pattern includes a full explanation of how to do each of the stitches, but I would probably wear it with a shawl pin because it stays on much better, because it's quite wide, and the fabric, I mean, it is 4-ply, so it's not super thick fabric, but it is denser than lace knitting, for example. So you probably don't want it wrapped around you several times, so just draping it across your shoulder and putting a shawl pin on to keep it in place is probably the best way to wear it. So you can see it comes down quite far. I'll add some of the photos, the official photos, to the end of the video, which is modelled by me, and obviously I'm quite tall and quite big, so if you're smaller than me it would obviously fit differently on you. You can make it slightly narrower and slightly longer. This section here is one chart, so it doesn't really have repeats, if you like, but this chart here does have, that is 2 repeats, so you could just make this 1 repeat, so it's a bit narrower, and then you can make it a bit longer. But yeah, I really like it. I'm really excited about this design. It is so warm and cozy. It's been too hot since I made it to wear it, but I'm looking forward to the autumn when I might be able to wear it. And I'm really excited to start teaching brioche. It's such a fun technique. I've really kind of immersed myself in it this year. I've become really excited about it, and I really enjoy doing it. And I have another brioche design. At the moment I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4 brioche designs on the go. One of them is going to be self-published. The other 3 are going to be in magazines coming out over next winter, I think. So I've really gotten bitten by the brioche bag. I don't know why it took me this long, but it's really good fun. If you think it's a bit challenging, just start with the basics. If you buy this pattern and you look at it and you think, oh, it looks so difficult, just start with the basics. Just start working on, you don't even have to do the 2 charts. Just start with that chart. That's the easiest section, the first chart, chart A. Just cast on enough stitches for the width of chart A. Just look at the bottom of the chart and it gives you how many stitches are in the chart, because it has a number underneath each column of the chart. And just work through that a couple of times in some practice yarn, just to get used to it. Then you can do the same with chart B, and then you can put them together. So you don't have to jump in and actually start casting on for the shawl for real. You can do each section separately and just practice for a bit till you get the hang of it, and then you can cast on for the real thing. Whatever you decide to do, I hope you like this design. There will be a launch discount, so if you happen to see this when the pattern is launched, there will be a launch discount. I always put the discount details on the pattern page, because then I can remove them when the discount is over. I normally do like a launch discount for about a week when I first launch a pattern, and it's usually around about 25 or 30% off. So if you're watching this after that discount has ended, do sign up to my newsletter, which I'll put the link below this video, because I do sometimes do pattern discounts on just all my patterns. So do make sure you sign up to my newsletter so you don't miss out on any future discounts, or any news, or any pattern announcements, or workshops announcements, or online courses, or anything else. You can sign up and find more information, including all the links you need to both the pattern and the yarn. The pattern is available on Ravelry and Payhip, and the yarn is available on my website, YarnAddict.co.uk. You can find links to Ravelry and Payhip on my website, and you can also sign up to my newsletter on my website, which is YarnAddict.co.uk, or you can find all the links below this video as well. If you're not sure where to find the notes below this video, depending on the device you are using, you either click show more or you click the down arrow. It'll be somewhere under the video, so do go and give it a look. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. And if you want to be notified each time I upload a video, do click the notifications bell and let me know what you think of this design. Do you like it? Have you done brioche before? Do you want to try brioche? Are you nervous about trying brioche? Brioche does have a reputation for being challenging, but it's not as difficult as it looks. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.